Hi guys, welcome back to your favorite channel RANA'S English Copy. This is Mr. Rana. Friends, you know that literature is the artistic expression of our thoughts, imagination and emotion. It is the most powerful weapon in the world. According to Emerson, this one is the record of best thoughts. Literature has different forms like prose, poetry, drama, novel, but poetry is the crown of literature. In this video, we are going to discuss the most important romantic poem, Daffodils. It was written by the best romantic and lake poet, William Wordsworth. Let us discuss. William Wordsworth's Daffodils is a lyric poem focusing on the poet's response to the beauty of nature. The poem was inspired by an event on 15 April 1802, on which Wordsworth and his sister Dorothy came across a long belt of daffodils. The final version of the poem was first published in the collected poems in 1815. An earlier version was published in Poems in 2 volumes in 1807 as 3-stanza form. The final version has 4 stanzas. Wordsworth wrote the earlier version in 1804. Let me talk about our poet, William Wordsworth. William Wordsworth is a well-known romantic poet. In English literature, he was one of the pioneers in the development of Romanticism. Nature was a guiding force to the Romantic poet. He was born in Cockermouth of England on 7 April 1770 and passed away at Hoxton Grammar School on 23 April 1850. Let us discuss some important poetic devices used in this poem. What do we mean by a poetic device? The poetic device is a technique or tool used in poetry which helps improve the quality of poetry. In this poem, Wordsworth has used several poetic devices. Number 1 is structure. The poem has 4 stanzas and each stanza has 6 lines. The total number of lines in the poem is 24. Next one is rhyme scheme. There is a regular rhyme throughout the poem, that is A, B, A, B, C, C. Each line has 4 iambs. I would like to talk about structure. The poem recaptures a moment on April 15, 1802, when Wordsworth and his sister Dorothy were walking near a lake at Grasmere of Cumbria country. The setting of the poem was in the countryside. It refers to a rural setting. Next one is tone. Tone is the feeling or nuance or general situation that a poem creates. The tone in this poem is impressive and joyful. The poet has also used contraction in this poem. For example, he has written over over as O''er over. He has also used inversion in the poem. For example, 10,000 saw I at a glance what wealth the soul to me had brought. Birth van on my cause a lie, and then my heart with pleasure feels. The poet has used ellipses. What do you mean by ellipses? Ellipsis means removing unnecessary details. For example, fluttering and dancing in the breeze, continuous as the stars that shine, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. These are the examples of the use of ellipses. He has also used an archaic word in the poem, that is oft, O-F-T. Instead of writing O-F-T-E-N often, he has written O-F-T. Let us discuss the figures of speech. He has used the following figures of speech. They are accidental. Several parallel and consecutive words, phrases, or clauses which are not connected with any conjugation is called accidental. For example, beside the lake, beneath the trees. He has used simile. Simile is an indirect comparison in which something is compared to something, also using such words like as, seem, etc. He has also used personification. Personification means a depiction of non-human or lifeless things as human being. The poet has used epigeuxis. Epigeuxis means consecutive repetition in your life. For example, I gazed and gazed but little thought. The poet has also used epistrophe. Epistrophe means repetition at the end of a line or poem. For example, and dances with the daffodils, a host of golden daffodils. Now I would like to talk about imagery. The poet has used the imagery related to the sense of vision or light. For example, a host of golden daffodils. The poet has also used hyperbole. Hyperbole is used in the 2nd, 11th, and 9th line of the poem. For example, 10,000 I saw at a glance, the stretched in the never-ending lines. These two are the examples of the use of hyperbole. Let us analyze stanza 1. Let me read it. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills. And all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. The poem starts with the line, I wandered lonely as a cloud. This line refers to the movement of the poet William Wordsworth. Once upon a time, he was roaming around without any purpose. He was all alone like a cloud that floats high in the valley. While roaming in the valley, he suddenly sees a host of daffodils. The word crowd and host means a large number of people. Hence the poet uses personification and attribute the human qualities of daffodils. The poet calls daffodils golden rather than yellow in order to express their majesty and beautiness. The daffodils seem to be fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Here the poet has used ellipsis. He has also used here the archaic word oft, which means often. Let us discuss stanza 2. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretch in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The second stanza begins with a comparison between daffodils along the lake and stars in the Milky Way. The poet has used simile here. The poet says that the daffodils stretch in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. The bay here refers to the lake. According to the poet, the daffodils which cover the shore of the lake seem to be unending, like the stars in the sky, like them they were to twinkling. The phrase 10,000 saw at a glance is hyperbole. That means the poet saw a large number of daffodils which he could not count. The daffodils were tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The word head here refers to the top flowers part of the plant. Your sprightly dances means lively and jubilant dance. Here they look quite amazing and seemed to the poet as they were dancing. Let us discuss stanza 3. The waves beside them danced, but they. How did the sparkling waves in glee? The poet could not be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the sword to me had brought. In the third stanza, the poet brings in the waves waving in the lake. Here the poet says that the waves in the lake dance beside the daffodils, but daffodils dance more sprightly. These lines somehow reflect the ideals of the Romantic age and its theme written to native. The poet concludes that seeing the daffodils dancing along the lake is the dream of every poet. And thus the poet gazed and gazed, that is, kept looking on the daffodils, and there were dances. Here the poet has used the figure of speech CHSE. Here wealth means happiness. For Wordsworth, the beauty of nature was the ultimate wealth, because it was in abundance. Here the poet has also used hyperbole. Stanza 4. This is the last stanza of the poem. For oft, when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude, and then my heart with pleasure fills. In this stanza, the poet says that while sitting on his couch means a type of bench, and in the vacant or in pensive mood, the memories of daffodils flash upon his inward eye. That is, his spiritual or the romantic vision. The memory then becomes the source of joy in his solitude. His heart is then filled with pleasure and dances with the daffodils. The memory of the daffodils becomes his companion. It is one of the best and heart-touching poems. Thank you for learning English with RANA'S.